Quite a long time since CD releases had this much buzz leading up to it, and more importantly, it's definitely been a while since I've had the kind of excitement that I've had about this compact disc. It hit stores back on March 25th, quickly jumped out to #1 on the smooth jazz charts. This brother is celebrating his debut self-titled release, the MVP of basses worldwide. Family, welcome to the program, bassist Nathan East. How you doing, bro?
Thank you, Bassman. I appreciate that introduction, and it's great to be here.
Well, brother, it's great to have you, man. So, this incredible CD, self-titled, 30 years in the making. We're going to talk about that in just a second because it is a lot to talk about. But before we hop into the CD, let's take a stroll down memory lane. Born in Philadelphia, raised in San Diego, and a musical household. How many siblings?
Well, we had 7 kids running around the place.
Okay.
Little 2-bedroom house in San Diego. And
where do you fall in the
and
7?
I am the 3rd oldest boy.
Okay.
And then I have younger sister, 2 younger sisters, 2 younger brothers.
Wow. Everybody played an instrument.
Everybody played an instrument.
And was this at the instruction of mom and dad, or what?
Well, we all took piano lessons, and I think they kind of got it in our heads at an early age, you know, to kind of educate ourselves. So at least we had a piano in the house, and so we were all kind of stumbling our way through lessons. And then, you know, folks started picking up different instruments and singing and playing. So yeah, there was always some music filling the house.
And you found your way to the cello.
Yes, exactly. I was actually I was looking to take piano lessons in my junior high school, but they only had like the orchestra instruments, so bass, violin, viola, and cello. Bass was too big, I was a little guy, and violin and viola were a little too small, you know, so the cello was like perfect for me.
And how long was it before you made that transition to the bass?
So I played that for a few years, from about maybe 11, 12, and 13, and then when I was 14, I discovered the bass, and that was it. You know, we were at church, my older brothers were playing and singing. My brother Ray East is actually a priest, and his parish is in Washington, D.C. So,
really?
yeah,
What parish is that?
it's St. Teresa of Avila.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I go to Holy Comforter, which is kind of down the street from there.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Good old Anacostia. So if you ever on a Sunday, you haven't lived till you heard one of his sermons.
Wow, I'm going to have to go over there and check him out.
Yeah, Monsignor Ray East, right here local.
Wow.
And so he was singing. You know, we were at Christ the King Church. My brother David was playing guitar, and that's when they initiated the folk masses back in the 70s.
Okay.
And I looked on the altar, and there was a bass, just nobody was playing it, and there was sitting on a stand. I picked that thing up, and all of a sudden you hear, oh, the angels came down from heaven.
God spoke.
God whispered into my ear, and literally, I mean, life has never been the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
So who were you drawing your inspiration from there? What were you listening to?
Oh man, well, you know, back then there were many bands, you know, and so you had like the British guys like the Beatles and the Stones and Cream, then you had Earth, Wind and Fire over here, and Motown and Kool and the Gang, Tower of Power. So I was kind of a big cross section of music. Miles Davis and Wes Montgomery, Herbie Hancock had Headhunters out, you know. So we just, you know, back then, like, radio played every style. You know, you didn't have like just one style on there. So we were having a good time, and that's when, you know, it was a very fertile period of music, especially if you wanted to be in a band.
Mm-hmm. If you're just joining us in studio today, none other than bassist Nathan East, talking about his life, his legacy, his music. So upright bass, electric bass, what's your preference?
You know, I love them both. I probably have more hours logged on the electric bass, so I feel a little more comfortable. And because the upright, there's no frets, and it's a big, long fingerboard, so it takes, you know, a lot of practice, hours of practice to really get your chops together. However, I do love both, and I do play both on the new album.
That you definitely do. You know, one thing that I really love about you, Nathan, is that you really have no musical boundaries. You've played with a myriad of people, from Whitney Houston, Madonna, Elton John, Beyonce and them, Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, Barbra Streisand, Quincy Jones, Kenny Loggins, Phil Collins, even Barry White, who kept you a secret. Tell folks about Barry White, if you would.
Well, he was one of my very first gigs when I was 16 years old. I toured the country with Barry White and the Love Unlimited Orchestra.
Wow.
He heard a group called Power local band in San Diego, and we were hired to back up the Stax Review. So we played behind Rufus Thomas and all these artists. And Barry was one of the artists, and he hired the entire band to tour with him. You know, I mean,
that's unheard of.
Puppies, yeah, it's really unheard of. And so we went on tour with him, and you know, at that point, and then I just got bit by the bug, because there you are playing at the Apollo Theater and Madison Square Garden. We played right here at the Kennedy Center in D.C. And Cobo Hall in Detroit. So we made the rounds, and you know, when you're a kid and you're seeing that kind of reaction, it's crazy, you know. So that was kind of a good introduction, and then he asked me to start recording with him on his record. So went and jumped in the studio and played all these great tunes. Ecstasy, When You Lay Down Next to Me. And the only problem was, you know, like the very first record I played on, I got home and I cracked it open and looked to see my name on the credits, and wait a second, no name. And it turns out Barry didn't want anybody to steal his sound, so he didn't list the musicians' names on the record.
That's a smart man.
He's a very smart man, but good for him.
For some recognition.
Good for him, no good for us. You know.
Man. So I just put out a list of who's who in music, but out of that list, and even if it's somebody that I did not mention, what was the most rewarding musical relationship that you've had thus far?
Well, you know, there have been so many, and when you list it, it's almost like I'm saying, really? You know, I mean, Quincy Jones, it's probably like when you're in the studio with Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson, first of all, every top A player in town is in that room, you know, because they just surround themselves with the best guys, you know. So that in of itself is a real magical experience. There's Michael Jackson in there, consummate professional, you know. He knows exactly what he's going to sing before he steps into the studio. So, you know, it's a learning situation, and Quincy's a mentor to all of us.
Yeah.
Here's a man. He's like your brother, your father, and he literally puts his arm around you and shares his wisdom and knowledge. You know, and that's the key to life. You know, if you can listen, and you know, when God whispers, listen.
Yeah.
When Quincy whispers in your ear, listen. And so that was rewarding. To record with Phil Collins and Philip Bailey and get to co-write the song Easy Lover with those guys.
Oh, wow.
Talk about rewarding. I mean, I was able to buy my parents a house, you know, with the royalties from that record. It was incredible. So you talk about rewarding experiences. You know, we toured the world. Eric Clapton, I've been touring with him for 30 years. He's like a brother from another mother, you know. I love him. We just came from Japan. Singapore, Dubai last week, you know. So,
wow.
You know, running around the world. Anita Baker, I've done every record from the very first one, from songstress, you know, even up to producing one on her right now that's scheduled to come out at some point.
Exactly. We've been waiting a year and a half for this record. You know, you're Grammy nominated for a single for a record that hasn't even come out yet.
Exactly. Well, the record was scheduled, but you know, Anita's she says no wine before it's time. You know,
wow.
And so.
Nice.
I guarantee you know, you're gonna love it. It's good, solid, classic Anita Baker, you know. So, but these are all people that, for me, to have been hanging around with, making music, and actually calling them my friends, you know, it's just been a blessing.
A blessing indeed for all of us. So 1/4 of the group, Foreplay. How did Foreplay come into existence?
You know what? And you talk about. Just fun experiences. I mean, we've been for longer than 2 decades a band that's been together. Now, you know, bands don't stay together.
Right.
You know, they just
come and go.
They come and go.
Right.
Before, I think the Beatles, 6 years tops. You know, and they made such an impact on music. But Foreplay started in 1990. Lee Ritenour and Harvey Mason were asked by Bob James, who should I call for bass?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Bob didn't know Nathan East,
Right.
So they both recommended me.
Wow.
And so I call that kind of like the first Foreplay record, because there's me, Lee, Harvey, and Bob in the studio making Bob's record. And if you listen to that record, it sounds like a Foreplay record, you know. So especially some of the songs like Restoration. And Bob was an A&R executive at Warner Brothers at the time, and he basically, while we were in the studio, said, "Man, I love the magic, I love the vibe of this band. He said, you guys want to form a band? I'm sure we can get signed." And so that was it.
That's power in itself. When you know, I know some people that are pretty up there.
You know, yeah. I mean,
make this happen.
It's nice. It's nice to have people on the inside.
Yeah.
And so, literally, you know, within 6 months, we were signed, a signed act at Warner Brothers. Went and did our first record, and we never even knew, you know, we'd be together here 25 years later. It
Wow.
went platinum. Next couple of records went gold, and we were off to the races. And we've had a great time, great adventure ever since.
Well, one thing for sure, when you hear a four-play record, you know for sure it is a four-play record.
Isn't that funny?
It is a beautiful thing. Nathan East hanging out in the studio with us, brother. You got time to stick around for a little bit.
Always.
My man, Nathan East, more coming up with him right here on the Cool Jazz Countdown. Well, family, it is time to go back live with the man who is celebrating one incredible compact disc. Happens to be self-titled, 30 years in the business, playing with everybody and their mama. Nathan East hanging out with his brother. This has been a labor of love, and I know it had been years and years and years of folks whispering in your ear, or just flat out asking you, man, when the hell are you going to make this album happen?
You know, but pretty soon they were stopped being polite. No, you know, as Bob James, he said, I'm just tired of asking. I'm not going to ask you anymore.
Wow.
You know, and you know, Larry Carlton, every time we'd come to the studio and say, hey, how's your album coming along? You know, it's embarrassing it took so long.
Because everybody in four-play had done their own.
Yeah, I'm the only guy in the band that hasn't had a solo CD out.
Wow.
And what happened was, you know, remember all those names you listed at the top of the segment?
Yeah.
Well, those guys have been keeping me busy for about 30 years.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, so I ain't mad.
Right.
You know, but
It didn't work.
finally I had a chance to take some time out for myself, you know, and for me, music is a collaborative effort. I mean, it's called a solo album. It's really not. It's like, it's a celebration of all my friends. And I mean, I got all my friends on there. Stevie Wonder, Michael McDonald, Eric Clapton, Bob James, Chuck Loeb. It's, you know, the late, great Ricky Lawson on drums, who we dedicated the album to. Yeah, bless him. He left some really, really good spirit on the record. And, you know, just, it's for me a celebration of the life of music, and music is the soundtrack of our lives. You know, you know, you remember where you were the first time you heard "That's the Way of the World," Earth, Wind and Fire, or, you know, and Let's Stay Together. You know, I mean, these are moments I can remember what car I was driving, what highway I was on. So
What lady you were dating.
What lady you were dating. You know, where I was up in school. You know, that's all I've been wanting to do, is just a simple continuation of the celebration of music. You know, it's a soundtrack for our lives. It brings us happiness, joy, and spirit and love and all those good things. So I just tried to pack that into a CD.
Well, brother, you definitely did. So, in putting this together, did the label give you some direction, or did they simply say, "You're Nathan East, go and do what you do"?
Well, you know, fortunately, the label happens to be a good friend of mine, Chris Giro, who's with Yamaha, been with them for 20 some odd years, and he created this label, Yamaha Entertainment Group. He also happens to be a songwriter, a producer, so it was really a collaborative effort with him. We said, I'll tell you what, let's do this together. You know, so we co-produced it, we wrote together. We sat down, picked all the songs, picked the musicians, picked the studio. I mean, every decision we kind of went in on. So it was a team effort, and I think that's always important, because you need somebody to bounce ideas off of and you know, kind of give you feedback. So we would do that to each other, and I think consequently we came out with a disc that covers a lot, and you know, two people scrutinizing every note.
Well, brother, there's a lot of notes on here. So let's go ahead and talk about a few of the tunes on here. And as I mentioned it, you know, you can give us your feeling on why you went the way you did. You start out paying tribute to the group that you've been with all these years, Foreplay. You rebirth a Foreplay classic in 101 Eastbound, which is somewhat of a family affair because your brother
Marcel East co-wrote with me. Yes. Okay. So even that was one of the first Foreplay songs we recorded, and we've been playing that on the road for over 20 years now.
Wow.
It gets a great response around the world, and you know, I thought, you know what, we went back to the very studio we recorded that song in, and I thought this is a very appropriate, you know, to kind of launch the first thing you hear on my record. You know, it's something that kind of ties in a little bit of the old school and brings in a little new school to it. You know, so I thought, you know, let's start with familiarity. It's an original composition anyway, so that counts. You know,
with some new layers to it.
Yeah, and a couple little new twists and turns since I've had the opportunity to actually play it in. And you know, Miles Davis used to play a song for a year on the road before he recorded it.
Wow.
And what that would do is, like, the song grows, and it actually, if you recorded it today and then you play it for a year, next year it's going to be a different song.
Right, because whatever you do on the album, when you go to play it live,
exactly,
it's going to be different anyway.
Different anyway, and it grows, and it goes into, so a lot of times, you know, people don't have that luxury. So with 101 Eastbound, I had that luxury of 20 years of playing it live.
Wow.
And went back in and said, okay, let's do a little retake on it.
That's beautiful. So you move to a straight-ahead movement, and you pull out everybody's favorite gray-haired man, and vocalist Michael McDonald on the classic Moondance, in which you even give it some big band flair.
Right. Well, here's a song that's been recorded a lot of different ways. So if you're gonna do it, you know, you got to come with something, you know, something that hasn't really been done. So. There's two things: a combination of Michael McDonald singing with a big band. We haven't really heard that a lot, you know. I don't think we've heard that. And the other thing is, you know, that song hasn't been presented in that. I think Michael Bublé did a little bit of a
little something.
Yeah, you did the big band. So you know, we again, Chris Giro had this idea about, you know, just starting with the walking bass line and voice.
Yeah,
you know?
I like that.
And so it's cool, and it just kind of takes you to a little finger snapping in the juke joint, you know, and then all of a sudden the big band comes, like right between the eyes.
Yeah. It's tight, it's tight. So a group that you did some work with recently, international sensations, Daft Punk, those who will forever remain, not nameless, but faceless.
Exactly.
You did some work with them on a groove called Get Lucky, #1 hit. Did they make you wear a helmet in the studio?
You know, I did not have to wear a helmet in the studio, which was a good thing.
But you did see that.
I did see that.
But you were sworn to secrecy.
I cannot tell you what they look like.
Part of the contract. Well, you guys did an incredible tune there, and I know you had no idea it was going to jump out there like that. Nathan's playing bass on that, so the brother with the helmet with the bass, that is not Nathan in the video.
Right, exactly. That's for the video purposes. I did play on the record and had a great time, and you know, I'd be lying if I said I knew it would blow up to be that big of a hit. You know, it just, nobody knows that a record will, you know, literally take over the world. #1 in 102 countries.
That is ridiculous.
Come on.
Ridiculous. And you got Pharrell on there, and Pharrell is just taking music.
Oh, he's unbelievable.
The happy movement, you know.
Happy movement, you know. Blurred lines. I mean, this brother can do no wrong. He has the gold, and he's a great guy to be around. But he has the golden touch. I tell you what, I'm so proud of him. So proud to have worked with him.
And I brought up Daft Punk to say that you are paying tribute to them with a group called Daft Funk.
Exactly. I mean, you know, it was just kind of a fun, tongue-in-cheek, but a way to tip our hat and just a nod to the brothers in Daft Punk. You know, that you guys made history together, and we're going to continue the party with Daft Funk.
Yeah, it's nice, man. Nice layers on there. You have a tune on here that is kind of like Simple Complexity, 7/8.
Right, written by my good friend Chuck Loeb, and fellow bandmate in Foreplay.
Yeah.
And the story behind that song is our birthdays are both in December, 1 day apart. Literally, we were born hours apart and not too far apart. I was born in Philly. He was born in New York.
Okay.
He's born in December 7th, and I'm December 8th. So, hence the title 7/8. You know, that's the Chuck's genius mind. You know, he said, okay, I'm going to write a song in 7/8. So if you count it, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. And very, very clever. One of my favorite songs on the record, too.
Simple Complexity, man. That's what it is. Again, in the studio today, bassist Nathan East, we're talking about his debut CD. 30 years in the making, and trust me, it is something that you will enjoy. Nathan is not just an instrumentalist, family. This brother can sing. Matter of fact, it was on a four-play groove, All I Want to Do, that I first said, wait a minute, this brother can sing. It's kind of like you're gliding, you know, you hang glide a little bit out there. And you put your vocals on a couple of tunes on the new album, but one incredible tune that has kind of gone through different movements, through different people over the years, Can't Find My Way Home, an old Blind Faith classic with Stevie Winwood.
Right.
And you got Eric Clapton playing on here, man. Talk about that too.
Well, first of all, that was a song that Eric used to ask me to sing during his concerts, you know. So I've sung that song at the Royal Albert Hall with the London Philharmonic, you know, and sung it around the world. And by the way, thank you, but you know, I'm kind of a bass player that sings, and so you would never, I would never jump in the ring with James Ingram, who just left a message on my answering machine saying he loved the record, and he was saying, "Don't be trying to outsing me now," which could never happen. But you know, it's fun. I mean, I used to have to sing in top 40 bands, Earth, Wind songs, and what have you. But when I used to sing this song on the road with Eric, a lot of people said, you know, you should record that if you do a record, and that stuck in my mind. And sure enough, we came back to revisit with our own kind of version of it, and I'm really happy with the way it came out. Thankful that Eric gave him a call. Hey, you want to play on this? Sure. When?
Only Nathan East can call Eric Clapton and say, you want to play on this?
Well, you know, a few people can, but I mean, the fact that he takes the call, first of all, is a blessing.
Itself, right? Because if I call him, he'd say, "Who's number this? Bass who?"
No, he's truly my brother from another mother. You know, awesome. we got 30 years under our belt of ripping and running around the world and touring and making albums together. We did, you know, been through some good times, some hard times when he lost his son, and
wow.
We recorded the song "Tears in Heaven," and literally, I mean, that's just hard to get through, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, these are friends and colleagues that, you know, we have a history together, and that's what I think comes out in the music, is our passion and love for just life in general.
Well, speaking of history and the music, it's not enough that you do a cover of a Stevie Wonder tune. But this brother is so bad that he has Stevie Wonder to play harmonica on his own tune on Overjoyed, man. It's just, I can't say anything about it.
You know what? That might be a first. I mean, to have Stevie cover his own song and play harmonica on it, I can't think of any. And again, you know, when you can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Steve, can you play on this?" You know, and there's a funny story that goes with that. I was kind of fooling around with that song at a sound check in Carnegie Hall in New York. We do these concerts for Rainforest benefit with Sting. And so he calls all his friends to come, and they raise money for the Rainforest Foundation. And this particular year was Bonnie Raitt, James Taylor, Stevie Wonder,
wow.
Elton John, you know, so all on the same concert. And we were taking a break, and I started fooling around with this song, Overjoyed, on the bass, kind of trying to come up with some chords for it. And next thing I know, I hear harmonica coming in, you know, on stage at Carnegie Hall. I'm saying, oh man, next thing I know, like they're all listening and looking at it. It's just me and Stevie playing. And you know, like I'm trying to work my way through an arrangement while in real time, you know. And he knows the tune better than I do, of course. He wrote it. And when we finished, everybody broke into applause, and it was like, really? And he came over. He said, "Nate, if you ever record that, you got to call me."
Wow.
You know, now when Stevie makes an offer like that,
you got to take him up, man.
Come on. And he did. I let him know. I said, "Hey, you ready?" He said, "Come on." First take.
Now, all kind of great collaborations on here that really showcase your history in the music, as well as your importance in the music, because as you said, when you call, people listen, they come to the plate. But I bet to venture that one of the most personal tunes on here is the one called Yesterday, because it gave you an opportunity to be in studio with your own flesh and blood, your 13-year-old son, Noah
East.
And this boy plays as if he's been through some things. Listening to him play this song, it is almost like the equivalent of hearing Michael Jackson sing "Ain't No Sunshine" at the age of 5.
Wow. Similar kind of energy, right?
Yes.
Spirit. Yeah. I mean, you really have to say, has he been here before?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I look at that and it's just God steps in and touches certain people too,
Yeah.
and he's an amazing musician. He has perfect pitch. You know,
Yeah.
I discovered that when he was 5 years old. I could play any note on the bass, and he would just go over and play it. And then I'd play like 2 or 3 notes, and he'd tell you, okay, that's a G, F sharp, A flat, you know.
And his chord progressions.
And the chords are beautiful.
Ridiculous.
I mean, and he plays them. He owns them, you know.
Yeah.
He's not kind of stumbling through it, you know. And it's an honor, and like you said, you know, probably one of the most intimate moments on the record. It took me about a dozen looks at the video on YouTube of us playing in the studio before I could look at it without crying.
I was just about, the first time I saw that, tears well up in my, I have 3 boys.
Oh man, so you know.
Man, I'm sitting there now.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
Because it's serious stuff, man, to be able to share these beautiful moments with our children. It's priceless.
Yeah, and you know, I don't care what color you are, the relationship between, you know, father and his son, you know, is very, very important. And too many times in our community, that relationship is neglected, you know. And I know growing up in my neighborhood, you know, 50% of the fathers were not present, you know. And so for me to be able to connect with my son on this kind of level and look at when he put those headphones on in the studio and watch his eyes just like gleam, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the sound, and he was ready too. I think that was the first take.
And when he says, "You ready, Dad?" It's like, oh,
exactly. I know. Like I say, I can't look at that video because I just lose it.
It's a beautiful thing. Family, again, in studio. Bassist Nathan E.C. has his self-titled debut release, which is in stores now. Came out March 25th. 13 tracks on here. The who's who of entertainment, they join him on here. It is one well thought out, well put together piece of music, brother. I congratulate you on all these years in the business. I look forward to nothing but more great things coming your way in the years to come.
Well, thank you, Bassman, and it's and one of the things I just wanted to let all our friends here know is that just the importance of education, you know, because you can't stress enough that is literally the key to freedom in your life, and education, even more than money, is something that you can never take away from you once you get it. You can make a lot of money and you can lose it,
right?
You know, but once you have that education, that's something that you cannot take away. So I can't stress enough the importance of us getting the education. It gives us freedom, you know. It buys us that. And I want to say thank you to America, because we just found out this morning that the record is the #1 contemporary jazz album in the country.
My man.
Via Billboard.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
brother. Yes. Broken right here, man. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
How can folks keep in contact with you? Check out your touring schedule, be able to get the music and more.
Absolutely. My website, nathaneast.com, is will have all the touring dates on it, as well as the Yamaha Entertainment Group.com. All our Facebook pages and Twitter is up to foreplayjazz.com.
Yeah.
And I also have an online bass school, nathaneastbass.com.
Okay.
So that's a school where, you know, you enroll and then you video yourself playing, send it to me, and then I can critique and send you a video back and say, okay, move your hand a little more to the left.
Nice,
yeah.
Nice. That 101, okay.
Absolutely. So just trying to keep it going.
Well, brother, hats off to you, man. Thank you for all that you do, and I appreciate you taking the time to come in studio with me here today.
It is a pleasure, Mr. Bassman himself. I mean, I thought I was Bassman.
From one bassman to another, we all in the family, brother.
Absolutely. God bless you.
Nathan East hanging out right here on WEAA FM.